The following may be disturbing to some listeners. Viewer discretion is advised. This famous short story, which got George R.R. Martin on the map before writing his Game of Thrones series, has a main character which shares my last name. This is purely coincidental.
Welcome back to the show. Today we're taking a deep dive into something a little different. We're looking at Sandkings, a short story by, you guessed it, George R.R. Martin.
Oh, the Game of Thrones guy.
The one and only.
Interesting. What's a fantasy writer got to do with, well, Catholic themes?
Well, you might be surprised. This story, even though it's sci-fi and a little bit horror, honestly, it really gets you thinking about some core ideas of our faith, like creation and even what it means to worship.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
So Sandkings centers around this guy, Simon Kress. He's a collector, but not like stamps or anything normal.
What does he collect? Faber's eggs?
Worse. Way worse. He collects dangerous animals, exotic pets. But it goes beyond just like owning them. It's this disturbing fascination with power and control. Like he gets off on watching these creatures fight and kill each other.
Oh, that's dark.
Yeah, right from the start, we see how messed up this guy is. He literally feeds kittens to his shambler.
Kittens? Like baby cats?
Yep. Not exactly a man who's looking for a cuddly companion.
Yeah, no, not at all. So where did the Sandkings come in?
So that's where things get really interesting. The Sandkings are these tiny creatures. Think almost like ants, but way more complex. They build these incredibly intricate castles, and they have these ritualistic wars with each other. It's almost like watching a miniature civilization unfold.
A miniature civilization that enjoys violence.
Oh, yeah. But it's more than that. They have this social structure, a hierarchy. They even create art on their castles. It's fascinating.
Their biology must be incredible.
It is. So each colony of Sandkings is actually a single organism. They have this hive mind controlled by a central maw, almost like a brain, and then all these little mobile creatures that carry out its will.
Kind of like an ant colony, I guess.
Exactly. But way more, I don't know, sinister, I guess.
And Kress sees this and thinks, I want to control that.
Well, it's more than that. He sees how they incorporate images into their castles, especially the face of this woman, Jalawo, who sold him the Sandkings. They seem to worship her because she feeds them.
Worship.
Well, it's more like a primitive, instinctual thing. But Kress, he sees it as a challenge. Like, can I get these creatures to worship me?
Hold on. So this story is about a guy who wants to be a god to miniature creatures who eat each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see the connection to faith. It's like a twisted version of what we as Catholics believe about God.
Right, and it gets even crazier from there, trust me. So Kress, he sets up this massive tank in his house for the Sandkings, like a whole room. And he installed this hologram of his own face that just shines down on them 24/7.
He's not even subtle about it, is he? This is some serious ego we're talking about.
Nope, not subtle at all. And at first, it actually seems to work. The Sandkings, they build their castles around his hologram. They incorporate his image into their little sand art things.
And he's happy, like a proud papa.
For a while.
Yeah.
But Kress is an impatient guy. He wants more action, more violence. He starts messing with their food supply, starving them to make them fight more often.
So instead of being a benevolent god, he becomes a cruel one.
Exactly. He even throws other creatures into the mix, spiders, snakes, this poor little bird, anything to get the Sandkings riled up.
It's like the whole idea of stewardship, caring for God's creation. It just goes right out the window.
And his friends, they get caught up in it too. They start having these war games, betting on which Sand King colony will win. It's just
disturbing, depraved.
Yeah, all of that. They've lost all sense of what's right. They don't even see the Sand Kings as living things anymore.
It's like they're playing God with these creatures' lives, and not in a good way.
And it starts to backfire on Kress, big time. He notices that the Sand King's art, the way they depict his face, it starts to change, gets all distorted, almost mocking.
Like they're reflecting his true nature back at him.
Exactly. And then his ex-girlfriend, Kath, she shows up. She's horrified by what she sees. She tries to talk sense into him, but Kress is too far gone.
She's like the voice of conscience, right? Trying to pull him back from the brink.
Yeah, but he won't listen. Then things get even worse. A police officer shows up, responding to complaints about the noise and the smell coming from Kress's place. He bribes her to keep quiet, but it's clear he's losing control.
The walls are closing in.
Literally. The Sandkings, they escape their tanks, start infesting the house.
And Kress, what does he do?
He freaks out, tries to poison them, but they're too resilient.
He created a monster he can't control.
And remember, he's been feeding the white maw, the most aggressive colony, with, well,
Oh, right, Kath.
it's messed up.
So now he's got this super-powered Sand King colony running loose, and he's got a dead body to hide. What could go wrong, right?
Well, he hires this professional exterminator, Lysandra. She shows up with flamethrowers and all this high-tech gear, ready to wipe out the Sandkings.
Does it work?
She manages to destroy most of them.
Yeah.
But the white maw, the one Kress has been feeding, it's different.
Different how?
It's evolved, it's huge, it's intelligent, and it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
connected to Kress in this really creepy way.
Connected.
Like he starts acting weird, almost protective of the white maw. He tries to stop Lysandra from killing it.
Wait, so he's gone from wanting to be worshipped by these things to actually protecting them.
It's more like
Yeah.
he's become a slave to it, like it's controlling him somehow.
This is getting weirder by the minute. What happens next? So he's gone from playing God to being a puppet. That's quite a fall from grace.
Yeah, and it gets even darker. Kress, he lures Lysandra and her partner down to the cellar where he's got the white maw locked up, and he kills them.
Kills them.
Yeah, and then he feeds their bodies to the white maw like some kind of offering. It's brutal.
Oh, man. This guy's totally lost it. He's become the monster he created.
And the cellar itself, it's described as this breeding ground. It's all like dripping with this foul-smelling liquid, and the walls are pulsating. It's like the white maw has transformed the whole environment into something, I don't know, unnatural.
Like a physical manifestation of the evil he's unleashed.
Right. And then right in the middle of all this, he gets a call from Jalawo, the woman who sold him the Sandkings.
Oh, she's back. What does she want?
She's freaking out. She tells him the white maw is about to give birth to a new kind of Sand King.
A new kind. What does that even mean?
She says it's rare, this final stage of development. But Kress, with all his messing around, he has accelerated it. He's created something truly monstrous.
So he's not just playing God, he's playing evolution too.
Yeah, and Jalago, she tells him to run, get as far away from that house as possible.
Hey, listen.
He hesitates. He's scared, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's also, I don't know, drawn to the white maw. Like he's got this obligation to it or something.
It's like he's completely under its spell.
Right. Finally, he snaps out of it and tries to escape. He takes his skimmer, his little flying car thing, and just takes off across the desert.
He gets away.
Well, he thinks he does. but then he stumbles across another Sand King colony, and as he gets closer, he sees these new Sand Kings emerging from their cocoons. And get this.
What? What is it?
They all have Kress's face.
His face. You're kidding.
Nope. It's like this horrible twisted mirror image of his own ambition. He wanted to be a god, but all he did was create this army of mini him monsters.
Wow. That's something else. You know, when we started talking about Sand Kings, I never would have guessed it would get this deep.
Right. It's a pretty messed up story, but it really does make you think, about pride and humility and the consequences of our actions. Like even when we think we're in control, we might just be creating something that will ultimately destroy us.
Yeah. That's a pretty powerful lesson. And it reminds us that true power comes from letting go, from surrendering to God's will, not from trying to impose our own will on the world.
Well said. And I think that's a good place to wrap things up. Sand Kings, it's not your typical Catholic story, that's for sure. But it's a story that can teach us a lot about ourselves, about our faith, and about the choices we make every day.
And maybe, just maybe, it'll make us think twice before we try to play God.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Sand Kings. And until next time, keep those deep dives going. You never know what treasures of faith you might uncover in the most unexpected places.